I would like to tell you a little bit about my new sweater called the Duvet Day Sweater. This one is a little bit unusual for me, and I thought you might like to know the story behind it and how it came about, because this was a story of love at first sight for me with the yarn. It doesn't happen to me very often. I've been designing for many years, knitting for many more years before I was designing, and I don't often fall so head over heels in love with a yarn and a desire to wear the fabric that yarn has made that I cast on immediately. But that's what happened to me last year at Barcelona Knits. I came along to one of the stands from All You Knit Is Love, and they had an alpaca silk blend, which is this one here. And it's a fluffy yarn. You can see it's got like a kind of thick and thin qualities, and it was just gorgeous. It was like picking up a teddy bear, and I loved it so much that I bought a couple of skeins of it straight away, because this is one where a knittle goes a long way because you knit it quite loosely. And I wound it by hand and I started swatching right there and then. I even bought some needles specially for it at the festival itself. Then the next morning, when I was thinking about it, and I realized that this yarn makes a beautiful texture, but it's quite thick and it's quite dense. So I was trying to figure out a way to make it a little bit more interesting, to lighten it up and to add some visual interest. And I realized that what I wanted was something just a little bit lacy, a little bit open with a bit of contrast color. So I decided to go back to the festival the next day and find myself a lace weight contrast yarn in a similar brushed alpaca and silk blend. And so that's where this one came along, was a hand-dyed lace weight yarn. And as you can see, you don't use very much of it, but the contrast really made the rest of the yarn stand out and gives you a focus or a highlight. So that was where the whole thing began. And I started knitting, and I actually made it about halfway through the yoke on the way home on the plane. So the design is top down seamless sweater, but it is done with a drop shoulder construction. So you start across the back here with all of your stitches, and then you work short rows back and forth to shape the shoulders. Then you work straight down to the underarm. That point you come back, pick up stitches, work short rows for the front, and then shape the neckline here and knit down to here. From there you knit the body straight down, and then you start introducing the lace patterns, just increases and decreases, some drop stitch patterns to create this lovely open lacy feel, and then eventually the sleeves are picked up from the top down. So this was Duvet Day Sweater Mark 1, and it used the yarn that I got in Barcelona, but I wanted to reproduce it, and I wanted to see if I could find the yarn closer to home. So we started working with Life in the Long Grass, and they hadn't used this yarn before, but they had access to it. So we did some test swatching, went back and forth with all of the yarn samples, and we ended up coming up with some colors that we really liked. So the yarn that we've got here, it's Surrey DK. Now it's called a DK, but because it's so thick and fluffy, you can knit it a much larger needle size to create that open fabric. And we realized that for the contrast, one of the most perfect yarns was the Cumulus. Fiber Space Cumulus is a mix of that brushed alpaca and silk, and comes in nice small 25-gram balls, which is perfect because you don't need very much, and it comes in this huge range of colors. So we were able to play with ones that either picked up flecks of the other color or did just a really high color contrast with it. So you had loads of options available with those colors in a very reasonable way, because you needed so little of that to throw up the contrast. So one of the particularly amazing things about this yarn is, because a knittle goes a long way, all of the sizes we have are going to be covered with either 2 for these ones or 3 skeins for the larger sizes of the main color, and only 1 of the Cumulus. I don't think I've ever done that before, where such a large range of sizes were covered with just a few skeins of yarn, which I think is quite incredible. Now, I've finished it, and I have to tell you, I love wearing it. It's lightweight, it's airy, but it's got this lovely, lovely cozy quality. I left the sleeves with a slightly more open draped quality, because I feel, again, like it adds to the the airiness or the dreaminess of the whole sweater. It's not usually a sleeve style that I would end up using all that often, but it feels like a perfect match for the Duvet Day sweater. I think it's going to be something that the next cold day you've got where you just want to wear a hug but still look a little bit kind of elegant and put together, it is going to be the sweater for you. And it knits up really quickly as well, just as a little added bonus. So I hope you enjoy knitting the Duvet Day sweater with me.